Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
With almost 500,000 customers and over $1 trillion of secure payments, Bill isn't new to intelligent finance. It's the proven way to simplify bill pay and maximize cash flow. Want to learn more? Visit Bill.com/proven for a special offer.
Hello and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm the therapist, Tess Brigham.
And I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
Well, Che Pasta, everyone. We are back with our coverage of And Just Like That. This is season 2, episode 3, called Chapter 3. So, just, some initial thoughts, Brooke. First thoughts about this episode.
Initial thoughts. So so now, we're settling into these stories.
Yes.
The first couple episodes were exciting because it was like, okay, it's back. What's happening? And so now it's kind of settling into the stories, and some of them are a little more interesting than others.
Yes.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but the Miranda Che Diaz one is probably the most interesting.
Yeah. Well, I felt like this episode was like broccoli. It was necessary, and I understood why it was there and it needed to be there because it was important and it made sense for the character of Carrie and why and where she is and where she would be in her life right now, but it wasn't fun. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't.
It's still sad.
It's still sad, and initially I felt a little betrayed, a little bit like, God damn it, you told me there was going to be sex, and now we're back to this. We're back to grieving.
Yeah, there's no sex in this episode. Not even Che and Miranda.
No, nothing. Not even Brady. Nothing. No,
nobody.
Nothing. Nobody. So that part was a little bit of like, oh God, we're back here. We're going back, but at the same time. Yeah, I understood it. And I have to say, from a therapist perspective, I thought they did a very, very, very good job on explaining grief, showing what grief is, showing how grief is not linear, showing how grief works, that it is, and talking about things that are not talked about when people talk about grief, which is that, and I hear this a lot as a therapist, that people, and it's just not talked about, which is people feel very bad about burdening people with their grief. They feel like, I can't keep going back to my friends telling them that I'm sad. I can't keep going back to my partner or spouse telling them I'm upset about my mother's death or whatever it is. And I think that all of that's very real, and why she lied to her friends, which is, I think that I could believe was very truthful.
Because look at what she's put them through with this guy.
Yeah.
Just the entire first series, then he stands her up at the altar.
Yes.
And then they had to go to Mexico with her on what was supposed to be her honeymoon. And then, and then they had some other problems, and then he dies. And she's just kind of like, she has a line where she says, I can't put these friends through anything more or something, you know, and she's talking to Seema, I think. But yeah, these episodes, I was saying, I always have to watch them twice because the first time I watch it, my reaction is always just kind of like, what? What is happening? I have to like take it all in.
Yeah.
And then the second time when you watch it, you can kind of get the details of it and really hone in on what the people are saying to each other. And then you're like, oh, okay. Like, I understand this now.
Yeah. So I understood why they were doing it, and it made complete sense, because if she just went right into dating and having sex and doing all this, I get that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And of course, her having to record the book would bring up these things, and having to reread that section and all of that, like all of these pieces made complete sense. I get it. And yes, that's exactly how grief works. And her running into Bitsy, that made, that's a perfect way of doing it, because you're running into someone else who really understands. And a lot of times it's only other people that have gone through the same kind of grief that you've gone through really understand that. Right. Because you and I have both lost friends of our own age. And I think that is very unique, because until you've experienced something like that, just as, my husband lost his father when he was young. I think he understands other people have lost a parent when you are young. Like, that is a unique experience. It's people who have lost their mothers when they're young, they understand each other. So I do think that all of that rang true. It's just more of, oh God, this is not fun. And so then what happens is the rest of the episode then has to react to that. So then we have to have all of these goofy storylines react to the fact that this is the broccoli.
Right. So it's not it's such a downer.
So we're having to eat all of this broccoli. So they're like, okay, well, let's pile on all of this other cotton candy and all this other crap that you're kind of like, I don't want that either. Yeah. I don't want a MILF list, which is so stupid. We'll get to that in a second.
I have thoughts on that.
Yeah. And the Che Miranda stuff is the most interesting stuff. Yeah. We come back to that. So that's,
yes, interesting. Yeah. And, I know the expectations are so high. I feel for the writers sometimes because, we have high expectations.
Yes.
If we've been watching, we've invested so much into this show for so many years, 25 years of our lives. My God, it's not easy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. But I also, at the same time, though, I feel like the writers also, and the show itself, I don't know. I mean, I think they also, I don't know. They don't shy away from this either. I mean, they're not doing this in a vacuum either. I mean, listen, all these actors are out there publicizing the show and talking about the show and trying to get as much PR as they can. So it's not like they're sort of saying, don't look at us. I mean, they want people to watch the show. I mean, I understand the expectations are high, but it's not like they're sort of, they want to be watched, and they again think they are doing this. They think they're doing amazing work here. They really do.
And we think it's hit and miss.
Yes, and we have a very different perception of it. But what did you think about? I thought it was very. What did you think about the big excuse of telling him that she had COVID?
Well, I mean, I think they had to. I don't know if they purposefully were trying to, bring COVID into it, but it's sort of like they were saying on the Writers Room podcast, it's a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
If you say you have COVID, you can get out of anything at this point.
Yes.
So that was a perfect excuse. And
well, I thought for sure when I saw that storyline, I could hear Michael Patrick King, who is, God, so insufferable. I mean, just listening to him on that podcast, he's insufferable. But I could hear his voice in my head, but he never said this. This wasn't his reasoning. But I thought he would say, well, we just thought we had to use because COVID is the get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
It's like, I just knew we had to use that at some point as the get out of jail free card. So we were just going to have to use it right here and now. Just the way he talks.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a Michael Patrick
Well, and
King
just
thing.
just as a little aside, this is part of my problem with this show, is that a 68-year-old gay man is running this show.
Yeah.
Okay, about women, most of whom are straight.
Yes.
And I'm just like, okay, yeah. Anyway, that's just an aside.
Yeah. But I did think it was interesting that because I don't know how to explain this. I mean, it is just sort of like, then you see all these scenes of her and what she does, sort of how she kind of hides from the world and sort of her hiding from everybody. And I don't know, I heard Heather McDonald talking about it, and her perception of it was that Carrie was just lazy. That it's like, how lazy are you that you're just kind of like hiding from the world and like just read the damn thing.
I hide
like,
from the world every day. I'm not lazy. I'm doing things. But yeah, no, but again, that's her. She's grieving. This is her response to grief, and but she does take solace in her downstairs neighbor Lisette.
Yeah.
Who, it's kind of a distraction for her. You know, she's a jewelry designer and she's creative and she's trying to support her. And, you know, they really seem to be forming a friendship. And so, I don't know, I think that's interesting. You know, like you said, she can't go to her core group of friends because she feels like she's burdened them enough.
Yeah.
And
then they're not really going to get it. I mean, that's the other part about grief that's so hard is, and why a lot of times people don't go to their friends is, one piece of it is most people say the stupidest things to people.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're in a better place or whatever it is. And I think that the minute Charlotte said to her, oh, yeah, Miranda and I were talking, we think you're doing such a great job with all of this. Like, that was the moment she realized, like, oh, crap, I can't say anything else. So I think that, that it, you know, for her, Lisette, again, represents a version of her life that doesn't involve Big or death or anybody else.
Anyone else in her previous life.
Yeah. So it's nice and exciting, and it takes her away from that. But I don't know. I do think it's interesting how people perceive her as being just someone, because she really doesn't do much. I mean, if you really think about it at this point.
Yeah. Well, she never has.
Yeah. I mean, but before, it always seemed like, well, she wrote this weekly column.
Yeah.
that she made, thousands of dollars from.
Well, she had her podcast up until last week.
And up until last week, she had a podcast that she did once a week. But here she is.
And then she goes out and goes on a shoe shopping spree.
Yes. But it's just funny. It's always been the same thing where it becomes more and more glaring of the fact that Carrie just doesn't have to work because she's living in this studio apartment.
Well, now
she's a millionaire.
Yeah, now she has Big's money.
Yeah. So she's got lots and lots of money, but it's just this one job that she has, and she's bailing on it yet again, but it's understandable why she doesn't want to do it. But I like the fact that the end was that she had to do it, and she needed to do it because she did need to read it. Mm-hmm. It needed to come from her. Mm-hmm. And I like that she got pushed into doing it and being pushed into having to do whatever she needed to do to push past it. Mm-hmm. But again, I felt like, Broccoli and all of these other pieces around it. And I felt like Seema's storyline was there to bring this one around. And again, all of the other ones were around there to bring this one forward.
Yes, Seema still really only has a connection to Carrie in any meaningful way, because even though she's going out to lunch with these other people, they haven't really made that connection. But her big storyline this week is that her Birkin bag is stolen.
Yes.
And, of course, Birkin bag is so, I don't know, 2000s or whatever.
Yeah, and that was another one that that they were talking about on the Writers Room podcast of like, oh, Birkin bags are so, old school, but they wanted to reference the first series where, very famously, Samantha Jones represents Lucy Liu and pretends that she gets this Birkin bag for Lucy Liu, and Lucy Liu steals her Birkin bag.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And one thing, I'm really disturbed by Seema and all her smoking.
Really?
Smoking in bed, smoking everywhere.
Yeah.
She's just smoking everywhere.
Well, she is very distressed about the Birkin.
Yeah, but in every episode,
yeah,
she smokes all the time.
Yeah, and I guess Carrie kind of gave up on her smoking time. I guess she's not going to smoke anymore.
No, she's not going to go back to that.
Which, yeah, I guess not. I mean, yeah, it is interesting, and it is interesting that I guess no one's going to say anything to her.
Well, maybe not. Maybe it'll become a storyline. I don't know. I mean, maybe in New York it's different. She hangs with a more sort of cosmopolitan European crowd. I mean, yeah, the guy she was with, was smoking in bed too and smoking around the clock. But I just think it's interesting because you just don't see characters like that smoking anymore on TV.
Yeah, I also think it's, I think it's, I'd be curious of women that age. I think that by the time she's supposed to be in her early 50s, right? I mean, 53?
At least, maybe mid. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. I mean,
I think the character's supposed to be 53. So, I do think that at 53, I do wonder, the smoking is a little odd.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. But
she also wouldn't look that good if she was smoking all the time like that.
But yeah, the smoking is a lot. I think that they were having her smoke a lot just because she was in distress about the Birkin, but it's much. But the whole Birkin storyline that just felt silly, and when they opened up the show that way, I was like, oh God, you've got to be kidding me. This is all about...
It also felt like a scene that had already been done in Sex and the City at some point.
And it has, and it's been done in a million different things, like, what do we really need to see this? And I understand they had to show us her getting that thing, the Birkin stolen, to connect to Carrie and the loss and Lisette and the jewelry. And I want to do want to talk about the jewelry robbery, the worst robbery ever. And that, I understand all of that had to interconnect, but again, you can't she can't lose or have something else taken from her that has a bit more significance. But again, they had to make it funny because this other thing is so heavy.
Well, didn't she say it was the first thing she bought when she made her first big sale?
Which I understand that significance of it, but again, they had to make it funny by having her walk outside of her townhouse and have it stolen from her. You know?
It just seemed a bit slapsticky. Yeah, I guess.
But I keep coming back to my point that I made last week, which was, again, they have too many friggin' characters. So you get slices of her. You get these slices of Seema, of that scene. And that scene lasted like 2 seconds. And then you get another scene of her and Anthony. All we saw of Anthony was him for a minute at a lunch with Seema. And that's it. When Carrie tells them she has COVID. Yeah. And that's it. And then you see her one last time with Carrie at the end. I mean, it's not enough. And so you kind of feel like, okay, great, have her, but then why do we also have Nya? I mean,
okay, well, to close that loop, let's talk about the jewelry show. Yes. So Lisette is, of course, one of Bulgaria's top 3, whatever. It's like all these people are so famous so quickly. Yeah. So she's having this jewelry show in Bryant Park. It's Fashion Week, I guess.
She's one of the top 3 young designers to watch.
Yeah. And basically, in a nutshell, so Seema and Carrie are there. And in a nutshell, this guy just starts putting all the jewelry in his, he's like disguised as a cater waiter, starts putting all of her jewelry in his bag, and he's stealing it. And everyone's freaking out, and there's no security. And then Seema pulls out of her bag, her new bag, her little bag, what looks like a gun,
Yeah.
but turns out to be a lighter of some sort. But she scared the guy off.
Yes,
but he
worked.
did. But he took her. It was too late. Like.
Which was so...
Because he was asking Carrie for her Carrie necklace.
Yes.
As if a robber would want, if that thing costs like $35
Yeah.
online.
Well,
and she's like, no, it's my nameplate. You can't take it.
well, what I love is this guy doesn't have a gun, a knife,
Right.
a bat.
Nothing.
Nothing. He has nothing. All you needed to do, Carrie, is run in the opposite direction.
Right.
Or either of you. They're
Right.
both of them are just standing. He's like, give me your jewelry. It's like, just no. No, what are you going to do to me?
Well, to be fair, having been a bank teller who was robbed
but Brooke,
at
those guys...
gunpoint.
Okay, but they had shotguns.
Well, no, I don't know if they had guns or not. It was all a blur. I honestly can't even tell you if they had a gun. All I know is all of a sudden there was a young person. I could tell they were young by the way they moved and stuff. They were small with ski masks on, like jumped up on the counter and is in my face yelling at me. I don't know if he had a gun or not. It was, I didn't even know what he was wearing. I couldn't even give any kind of description. You freeze. You absolutely freeze when that happens. So in their defense, it's very strange. And I think it took them a while to figure out what was happening, because it was so weird, because he's just putting stuff in his pockets.
Yeah. No, I understand that part, because we've all been there in these weird situations where you see someone and you're just like, because they were saying that, is he moving it? Is he redistributing? Like, they couldn't figure it out, but she had enough wherewithal to go, it's my favorite nameplate. She wasn't frozen in that way. She was it's my favorite nameplate. It's this, it's that. It's like, so she wasn't that frozen. I just feel like, but he wasn't even threatening her. He was just like, give me your things. It's just like, this is the worst robbery. We've seen Carrie get held up at gunpoint before. The guy had a gun. We saw that in the sex and Manolos. Yeah. So it was just so weird.
Well, she did the same thing. She's like, no, these are my favorite pair. I can never get them again. Yeah, that's always her response.
So, yeah, but you're right. Like, why would you want a Carrie nameplate necklace?
No, that he wouldn't.
Yes.
But anyway, so that loop is closed.
Yeah. Well, so she
story.
lost. So again, she, of course, he takes everything of hers, and there's no security for this party, and which is, of course, very interesting that they decide to have this party where they have thousands and thousands of dollars worth of very expensive jewelry with 2 rent-a-cops
right out in the open.
In the open. And so she, of course, loses everything. And I mean, I think that is, again, they're trying to find these ways of looping these things around to connect to Carrie.
Yeah, right? Carrie consoles her and, tells her she'll make it up. She'll make it up. She'll go on.
Yes. Just as Carrie
Just as Carrie is going on.
She will go on after
her loss.
So... we can talk, the Nya stuff is...
Yeah, so I guess, Miranda connects LTW with Nya because LTW is making a documentary about, I don't know if it's about this woman, Constance Baker, I'm butchering the name, Constance Baker Mosley, who was... like one of the first, or maybe the first Black woman appointed to federal court. Anyway, very famous jurist, lawyer. So Nya comes on because she's a professor and a lawyer, and so she's interviewing her. So they connect those two that way. And then it becomes, so they're doing this serious documentary, but then it becomes kind of silly, and Nya thinks that the audio guy is cute, and I guess gives him her number. Yeah, we don't actually see that part, but then later she says, "Oh, the cute camera guy texted me."
Yeah, and that's it.
It was pretty silly, and then they go off to this lunch where then Charlotte's there.
Yes,
and was Anthony there?
No. Okay. It was just Carrie, Charlotte, Nya, LTW.
Oh, Carrie was there?
Yeah. Because that's where Charlotte says to Carrie, Miranda and I noticed how well you're doing. And then Nya and LTW go to that. They meet them there after that documentary. And then they talk about the MILF list.
Which I think is one of the most ridiculous, offensive storylines on a TV show I've ever seen.
The MILF list? Yeah, I do want to talk. You want to talk about the MILF list now?
Sure.
Okay. So the MILF list thing, and I understand why they did the MILF list, because they wanted to do something quote unquote light and silly to balance out this other part.
Oh, you mean pedophilia?
Yes. So hold on a second.
It's light and silly.
Yes. And
okay.
But hold on. I'm just telling you, this is what Michael Patrick King is thinking, and the other two female, Lisa and Julie. This is what they're thinking.
Okay.
Right. We need something silly for these other women to do, and I just on their podcast they're talking about how Julia, is it Julie? Julie and Elisa.
Julie and Elisa.
They both have kids in school, one in private school and one in public school in New York. And they were talking about how all of these schools now are, in this modern world, feel really a lot of pressure to be uber sensitive to everything that's going on in the world. And in their minds, and this is a part that I thought was weird, was they felt like a MILF list was a way to talk about something that could offend the school but wouldn't truly be offensive. And I remember watching this going, this was my initial reaction before I even listened to the podcast or heard their thought process behind it. Was number one was no Gen Zer is going to use the word MILF,
right?
Because that is such an old word.
Yeah.
Number two, if this was the reverse, if you were all objectifying a young 16-year-old,
if it was a DILF list,
yes, if it was a DILF list, or if it was a group of dads looking at
ranking like young women,
because there is another scene where a group of moms are objectifying one of the kids, one of the boys, who's 15, 16.
They think he wrote the MILF list.
So again, if that was reversed, if that was a girl and these were a group of dads, we would all be mortified. So, and the whole thing is offensive. It is wrong.
Offensive.
It is weird. And I don't think that I don't think the school is being like really uppity by being like, oh, this is not good. Like, we do really need to not be doing this, because I'm not trying to be Miss PC here. I'm just simply saying that I don't think it's really good to be teaching people to rank people based on looks. And I just don't think it's a good thing to get into this headspace of teaching people to rank people on their looks.
Well, I mean,
in general.
But first of all, if a boy, now mind you, this is like I don't know, is it a high school or is it a junior high or is it?
It's a high school.
Okay,
right? Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it is, because I think yes, it's a high school.
But LTW's kids, it's probably one of these private schools. It's like a K through 12 private school. Okay, now and I know about this. My daughter went to private school, K through 12. Yes, there's this environment where, they're ultra sensitive. They always want the parents to know that, any little thing, we're going to nip this in the bud or take care of it. But if it was a situation where a teenage boy or a group of teenage boys circulated a MILF list, they wouldn't have it. They wouldn't bring it up at this PTA meeting or whatever that they're doing. They would address it with the students. You know, it wouldn't have been handled in this manner. And again, we're talking about teen boys, okay, and then the way that Charlotte and LTW react, they're all giddy about that, the fact that they're on the list. It's like, excuse me, if a 25-year-old, if you're 50 and a guy in his 20s thinks you're a MILF, that's great. That's flattering. Okay. If a 16 or 17-year-old thinks you're a MILF and you're in your 50s, and if you're giddy about that, you're gross. And the whole thing just felt really gross to me.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe that it was in this show. Yeah. And then their justification about how, this is how private schools deal with this kind of stuff. Well, no, not really. I mean, if it was an issue about racism or sexism or something where they wanted to use it as a teachable moment, then yeah, schools do that. You know, but for the most part, these private schools want to sweep anything negative under the rug.
Oh, yeah.
And something like this would have been dealt with very differently.
Yeah.
So they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, and this goes back to what we were talking about with season 1, which is, you know, the fact that they were so heavily criticized for the fact that they weren't paying attention to anything in the first in the first go around. And so in the second go around, they're like, oh, we're gonna be so mindful of everything. And then here they are, they're like, oh, we're gonna pick something that's not quote unquote offensive. And then it's like, no, it is. Like, you're not getting the point.
Yeah.
Like, you've completely missed the mark on all of it. Like, there were other things that you could do where about things that maybe were too sensitive about that you could talk about. But this, a MILF list?
Yeah.
I mean, on so many different levels. And you're absolutely right that you should not be flattered when an underage child finds you attractive.
Yeah.
And it's not cute. It's not funny. It's not any of those things.
Yeah.
And again, I was so shocked with that scene where they're objectifying. That boy was 16 that was walking by.
Yeah, they're like leering at him. Yeah. They're like, oh, is that the one?
What
is that
was
the
it?
one?
Milo
Milo H. They're like, is that the one? And they're all staring him down in the hallway, and he's sort of looking at him with this kind of Tom Cruise boyish sort of look. Oh God.
Yeah.
It was really, really gross. I can't believe they did it.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Again.
I mean, and I get, and again, I get why they were doing it. And I think that they could use Charlotte and LTW differently, because I think they were trying to show like the two of them being funny and playful and silly and being maybe different kinds of moms at this school. There's a million things you could have done. Anyway, so stupid. It's just like,
it was stupid. And so that, I think that was the extent of their
whole thing.
Their whole appearance in this episode.
So let's talk about Che and Miranda.
Okay.
So Che and Miranda, they are in LA. And we start out by seeing Miranda running lines with Che. And, you know, obviously Che is anxious about this very stressed out. And, you know, it's, I don't know. I think this shows you what a good actor Cynthia Nixon is, how well she does reading these lines as a non-actor to her. I'm always amazed when actors try to be non-actors. I think the two of them do a really good job at this. And this whole storyline is, I think they obviously have to get Cynthia Nixon back to New York. And I thought they did a really good, I thought this was very good job of how do you get Miranda back to New York in a very authentic way? And what's the one thing that would bring her back, which is Brady. And so we see her, we see them running lines. Obviously, Che is very, very anxious about the show. And we see this one scene, they're running lines from this one scene where Tony Danza and Che are having this conversation about Che being non-binary. And this is what's making this big emotional scene. And my guess, and Che is worried about being able to hit these notes. And this anxiety around this is making Che really anxious. And
because she's supposed to cry in the scene.
Yes.
She doesn't know if she can
hit that mark.
Yeah.
And I think there's something much more that's going on here that I think may get revealed later on in the series. Like, I still feel like there's stuff with Che that we're not seeing.
Yeah, there's something triggering Che about this show and this everything that it's triggering her. It's bringing up something from her childhood or something. Yeah.
Something going on
because
with Che.
she's very uncomfortable. She's just coming out of her skin uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She's not herself.
Well, yeah, it really bothers them that this idea of being non-binary would make them unhappy. You know? So, but all of the writing, I have to say, all of the writing for the sitcom is so right on. The way My Little Cannoli, the The jokes, all of that is so right on.
Yeah. So Miranda, she has a couple things going on. She lost her phone at the beach
yes.
last week.
Which actually now all of that makes sense of why she lost her phone. I mean, I guess that connects now.
So they convinced her to get an Android phone. She doesn't know how to use it. She keeps missing all these calls from Brady, and
who was in Europe with his girlfriend,
with Luisa.
Yeah,
and Shay is telling her, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's with his girlfriend in Europe having fun. He's not thinking about you." But she has a sixth sense that there is something wrong, and he hasn't called in a lot of days. And then randomly, when she's at the cell phone store, there's a tattoo parlor next door, and she just kind of randomly decides, should I get a tattoo? And she goes inside and talks to the guy. She's trying to figure out
that's a really great scene between her and, what was that guy's name, Ricky?
I forget, but because he's telling her how, this tattoo really has to reflect where you are in your life right now. And, you got to figure that out for yourself. And because she's asking him, well, should I get this robot? Because she made some reference to feeling like a robot.
Yeah, when she worked at the corporate law firm all those years. And
and then she calls Carrie and asks her about the tattoo. And Carrie's like, why do you want to get a tattoo now? Like, what is the point? And so anyway... So she's still waiting for this call for Brady. So she shows up at the sitcom taping, and of course they take everyone's cell phone, but she's not going to give up her cell phone.
Yeah,
because Brady might call.
Which is so. I would just like to say, as someone who's been at these sitcom tapings, Miranda as Shay's partner would get to be on the sound stage. She wouldn't be
she wouldn't
audience.
be in the line.
Because trust me, you would. I've been on these. I've done this many times. You get to be on the back and on the sound stage, and you get to be on the trailers. You would be. She would be. Miranda would be in Shay's trailer. Anyway. So she swears she doesn't have a cell phone, and they let her in. She puts the cell phone down her pants. And so the taping starts, and, it's going really well. And Shay and Tony Danza are really hitting it, and everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, Miranda's phone starts ringing. And you could see that coming from a mile away. You knew the minute she put that phone down her pants, you're like, oh, this is going off at the worst time.
So, and the woman I shouldn't say woman, the non-binary person who's the producer. They just go apoplectic.
Yes.
Which was, that person is kind of weird to begin with. And then the phone goes off, and they just go crazy. Miranda has to slither out of there.
Yeah. That actor, Abby McEnany, she, I don't know if Abby is non-binary, but check out Abby's show, Work in Progress, on Showtime. So good.
Yeah, I saw some episodes of it.
So funny. Of course, that's not very realistic, because they would have never thrown that kind of fit.
Yeah.
But I thought that how they did that whole section with Miranda being this mother, and why she would stuff her phone down her pants is so real, because we're both mothers, and really what was happening is she hasn't been able to reach Brady for days. She finally gets Brady. He's crying, and he says something to her to the effect of, I wish that car had hit me.
Yeah, so he reveals that his girlfriend broke up with him. He's in Europe alone. He's miserable. He's sobbing on the phone. A car almost hits him, and he says, oh, I wish it would have hit me. And Miranda just says, come home, come home, come back to New York. I'll meet you there. And she immediately goes into mom mode. She books a flight to go back to New York. She calls Charlotte.
Yes.
Because here's the thing. It's like, and I know, I've been through this many times. Here's the thing. Today, it's so hard to be a parent of a young adult, because, when we were younger, we might say something like, if I wish the car had hit me, or I wish I was dead, or something like that. And our parents would have been like, oh God, please, come on, buck up.
Yeah. Which is exactly what our parents would have said to us.
Buck up was their favorite.
Yeah. Get over yourself.
Get over it.
Hang tough.
These days, we can't just say that because my daughter, who's 20, has had several friends commit suicide. I still have yet to know someone, like a friend of mine, who's committed suicide, thank God. But it's a whole different ballgame. And the world is much harder to live in.
Yes.
And young adults have a much harder time moving through life. And I do think young adults look around, they see this happening, and they do think of these things and see it as an option.
Yes.
And as a parent of a young adult, you worry about that every day. So when Miranda said, I was like, yes, Miranda, go back to New York. And she checked in with Charlotte, and Charlotte said, no, you're right. Come home. You need to come home. And talked about, he sounded suicidal. They even used the word suicidal, which I thought was really spot on. And I really related to that whole thing.
Yes. No, I thought that was, I think was it Sex and the City 2, the second movie? I thought one of the one good part of it was when Miranda was talking to Charlotte about parenthood, and because Charlotte was having so many problems with Rose, and I thought that was one of the better parts of it. This is one thing that has always connected the two of them, is the fact that they're both parents and both mothers. And I love that she called Charlotte, that this was the one person she could talk to that could relate to her in that moment in time. And you're absolutely right. And the other thing is that this is the other thing about teens is that teens and young adults, your brain's not fully formed. So you're also very impulsive. And this is what happens a lot too, is that young people, yes, it feels like, they're just saying they're going to kill themselves because they're just upset right now. They'll get over it. Right. But that impulsiveness, that statement feels impulsive, but they are impulsive people. So they do impulsive things. So yes, while things will get better for them, they don't know that. And, young people, especially young men, do these very impulsive things. And I've had clients. I had a client whose son committed suicide at 16, with a gun, and I've read his suicide note. I mean, it's one of those things where you're just, it's one choice that you make and everything gets altered. So I don't blame her one iota for just being like, time out, gotta go, see you later, Che. And I think that I think a lot of people felt like Miranda was so weird and different and goofy and all of these things. But I didn't feel like Miranda last year swung that far away from who she was. I think that Miranda felt very stuck and needed to shake up her life. But Miranda's still Miranda, and she's still a mother, and she's still going to do the right thing, which is this. Yeah. And she's going to go home,
Yeah. So she has to confront Che, tell them that she's going back to New York. And of course, Che is very dismissive of this and saying, again, he'll be fine. And saying, well, this is really important to me. And she says, well, Brady's the most important thing to me. And I was just like, yes, Miranda.
Yeah.
Yes, Miranda is back. Thank God. She has come out of this fog that I feel like she's been in. And, back to like what's important. Yeah. Because you left your child, like, to come out to California to be with this person that you barely know. So go back and, fix this. So she does. Yeah. And they reunite in New York. And we still haven't seen Steve.
Well, I think we'll see him soon. I think we'll see him
next week.
Because it looks like they're going into family therapy. So, or some sort of version of family therapy. But yeah, I thought all of that was very smart. And I like the way they ended that, so that the way she said to Che, which I think is a very mature thing, which is, do we have to end like this? Because she wasn't going to back down. She wasn't going to pretend like, no, you're right. Your pilot is more important than my child. It was like, listen, that's the most important thing to you. This is the most important thing to me. Can we just end on a nicer note?
We don't have to come to any other agreement than that.
And can we kind of get to a happy place and then, what's going to happen? So, and And I think that the whole situation with Che and this pilot, I think all of this is very, very interesting. And I think it's very realistic of what happens. And God, that Tony Danza is just so lovable. You know, he really is such a great sitcom dad.
America's dad.
He is.
Yeah.
He's just America's sweetheart. What can you do?
I know. There's not many of those left. Those lovable TV dads. They either turn out to be creeps or they're dead.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, it's like we lost Bob Saget
that's
last
true.
year.
That is true. Or they do turn out to be creeps, you know, like the dad from Seventh Heaven was a child molester.
Yeah. And of course, Bill Cosby.
Ugh, the worst of them all.
The worst of sitcom dads. So God bless Tony Danza.
For keeping it together. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, the episodes are 45 minutes, but it still feels like it still, some parts feel really, really long and other parts feel really short. Mm-hmm. You know, some parts just feel like, God, why are we wedging this in here? Mm-hmm. You know, and then other parts you're like, oh, we're still on this? Mm-hmm. Oy, okay. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it is interesting, you know, to see how they weave this all together. You know, I've never, listening to this Writer's Room podcast, I have a new appreciation for writers and how they, you know, because you have to know from episode 1, like what's going to happen in episode 10, because you've got to set all these things up and it's all got to make sense and go together. Yeah. So, you know, I think they do a great job of that. I still think that some of the stuff they focus on is, like I said, unrealistic. Maybe not, I don't know, just wrong. They missed the mark, but
yes.
Don't we all?
Yeah, well, what can you do? Anywho, we'll keep watching it.
We will be watching this as long as they keep.
I mean, listen, we're 45 minutes in, so we took out as long as the show aired. So
yeah, I'll watch the show as long as they keep putting it out.
That's us.
Trust that.
Well, and then they showed us the, I guess there were some shoes on there, and I didn't know that these were trendy shoes. The ones with the balloons, the deflated balloons. Did you see those shoes that she was wearing that apparently are on all the runways? Where there was like, it's a balloon on top of the...
When was she wearing them?
When she came back from shopping with all of the shoes, and she's trying to make herself feel better.
Yeah, I didn't
So
notice.
she's shoe shopping.
Didn't really notice.
I was like, oh, God, I'm so out of it. But there were these very like cool hip shoes with like balloons. But the balloons are deflated. You didn't see that?
No.
I think there were no good fashions this episode. I will say, because I do really... Honestly, the best fashion was on Richard Burton. His rainy day.
His
raincoat and rain booties. Yeah. Richard Burton was the most fashionable dog ever.
Yeah.
So
I don't really notice the fashions that much. Because, people will comment about something that Carrie had on. I'm like, I didn't notice that. Unless it's something big and whatever, like when they went to the Met Gala, Met Ball, whatever.
But no, the fashions, no, normally I do, but this time around, there was nothing that really came out at me. And I mean, I usually like what LTW wears, but God, the statement necklaces are it's too much.
Yeah, sometimes the stuff she wears is super weird, but I liked what Lisette was wearing at the jewelry show.
I can't remember.
It was like a dress that then turned into a headscarf type of thing. I don't know. She's just so young and cute.
Yeah, I mean, she can probably wear... I mean, she's really tall, too, so she can wear anything. But, God, what did they put Miranda in? I mean, she... is such a dork. Like when she went into the tattoo place, she's wearing like a bucket hat. I mean, they keep putting her in the dorkiest LA dork tourist outfits.
Because I think maybe that's intentional. They're trying to make her look like a tourist, like she doesn't belong there.
Oh, maybe.
You know, because she's wearing goofy. Like the jean jacket and a bucket hat. I mean,
it's so bad.
Come on.
It's so bad. Anyway.
All right.
Well, and just like that,
Just
the
like that.
podcast is over. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. We really do appreciate subscribers, and we appreciate reviews. Please give us, if you haven't already, a 5-star review and write a few kind words. We are on social media. We got to get better about our social media.
Yeah, I kind of slacked off.
I know. It's just been, full-time jobs and life and all that stuff. We got to get better. I did my audiogram, and I got to do more of those. I just got to block out like a full day to do a bunch of stuff. It's just so hard.
We tried to take some pictures at the wedding that we went to a couple weeks ago, but it was on the beach and it was so windy and our hair was all over the place and we couldn't get a good picture. And we all had sunglasses on. So
we were going to do some things on that wedding. It was a lot. We went to a couple weekends ago. We went to San Diego down to Coronado for a family wedding, and we were going to record things, but it was a lot. It was a lot of activity at that wedding.
Yeah, it was a lot of activity and just not enough time.
Yes. So we will get better on that. But you can, if you follow us, you will always learn what is happening and when the episodes are out. And you can make requests of things for us to cover there. So we are at Psych Legal Pop, both TikTok and Instagram. And I think that's it. Tell a friend about the podcast. We really appreciate the support. And I think that's it.
Tell your friends who are fans of And Just Like That.
Yes. And of Sister Wives. So, and Just Like That, all summer long on Mondays. And Sister Wives, our rewind is happening on Tuesdays. Yep. So we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
When it comes to managing money, forget the hype and look at the results. Bill has $1 trillion of secure payments powering our bill pay tools. Instead of just moving money, Bill is powering the financial operations of nearly 500,000 customers. So stop the guesswork and start scaling with the proven choice. Ready to talk with an expert? Visit Bill.com/proven to get started. And grab a $250 gift card as a thank you. Terms and conditions apply. See offer page for details.
Give me a mountain with lots to do. Give me the sunshine, give me a dew. Give me something simple and true. All I need is sunshine and a cool, refreshing mountain dew. So give me my good friends, give me a dew.
Grab some friends and an ice cold Mountain Dew today.
Mountain Dew.